An Auckland charter school is accusing the Associate Education Minister Kelvin Davis of favouritism over his close ties with a trust that runs a charter school in his electorate. 11 charter schools are currently in negotiations with the Ministry of Education to change to a different teaching model. And Mr Davis has been, in his own words, working closely with the He Puna Marama Trust, which runs a charter school in Whangarei. But the Villa Education Trust, which runs charter schools in Auckland, says the Education Minister Chris Hipkins won't speak with them, and it's accusing the Associate Education Minister of playing favourites. Earlier this afternoon, I asked Mr Davis what he thinks of the complaint.
Oh, I think that's a bit silly. I visit a lot of schools in my electorate. I do know the CEO of He Puna Marama Trust. They contacted me, the trust contacted me concerned about the scaremongering that's been going on from the National and ACT MPs, and I basically on the phone talked them through the information that the Minister of Education had publicly released last week, just explaining the process and the options.
What sort of assurances have you given that school?
What do you mean assurances?
In terms of their future, I mean, you say that there's been some scaremongering, but what have you told this school that you've got the connection with?
Oh, look, like I say, I've just talked them through the process and the options available, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to sort it out, but I'm not involved in any negotiations.
You're not involved in any... Sorry?
Yeah, no, I'm not involved in negotiations. That's not my delegation. But as the local member of Parliament, they got in touch with me. I spoke to them and tried to soothe their concerns, like I say, because of the scaremongering and muckraking of the National and ACT parties.
But can you see where Elwyn Poole from Villa Education Trust is coming from? I mean, he's saying that they have tried to talk to the Education Minister, Chris Hipkins. They can't have any sort of talks with him because they're being told that this is in process at the moment and that ministry officials are dealing with it, and yet you've been speaking to a school in your electorate and giving them assurances that everything will be all right.
Sorry, I didn't give them assurances, but I have said that we'll try and work through this. Look, I also tried to contact a person I know in the Te Reo unit at the Villa Trust, but couldn't get in touch with him. So I've made attempts, but I haven't received any direct correspondence from them asking to talk. I'm happy to talk to them too, and to talk them through that same document, talk them through the process and the options that are available to them. I'd treat them in no different than I've treated anyone else. But the Puna Marama Trust got in touch with me last week.
But Raewyn Tepini from He Puna Marama has told RNZ that she feels more assured about the future of the school after speaking with you. She says, I think Kelvin's very, very keen to reduce the angst that's occurring and get us all to the table and work through it. So they are feeling assured, and yet this other school that is not in your electorate is obviously still has concerns that are not being addressed and that they can't speak to any minister.
Well, absolutely keen to reduce their angst. That's exactly the point of talking to people. And like I say, I'm happy to talk to the Villa Trust as well and have the same sort of conversation, talking them through the paper and through the options, and to see what we can do. Hopefully that they'll engage, though, in good faith as well with the Ministry of Education. I believe the Ministry of Education was in touch with them yesterday. I think that this is all just part of the anxiety that the National and ACT Party have caused and created the confusion. Quite literally, as I said in the House today, they're running around doing their best Chicken Little impersonations, telling these schools that the sky's going to come falling down on their heads, and it's not. There's no conflict of interest then, as you see it? Why would there be a conflict of interest? Because you're a minister who's speaking to a charter school about its future, and yet a school outside your electorate can't get a meeting with a minister about its future. They contacted me as their local member of Parliament, and I talked them through information that is publicly available. And I think the Villa Trust actually is in my electorate. I've got no problems with being in touch with them and talking them through that paper, just like I did with He Puna Marama Trust. Are these schools going to close? Sorry, like I said, Sharon, I tried the other day to ring somebody that I know in their Te Reo unit. I couldn't get in touch with him. Hopefully,
did you try to speak to Elwyn Poole?
I don't have Elwyn's number. I could try and talk to him, but they've also saying that we're not responding to any communications. I haven't had any, to my knowledge, I haven't had any direct communication from them.
So you'd be willing to take a call from Elwyn Poole from Villa Education Trust?
Yeah, absolutely.
And give him assurances?
No, look, like I said, I haven't given anyone assurances, but I will talk him through the paper. Whether he wants to hear what I've got to say, that's another thing.
Are these schools safe? Are they going to close?
Look, the model is what is going to go. The schools don't have to. There's nothing the differences between the charter schools and the designated character schools are purely administrative. So, it's around governance, it's around property, and it's around teacher registration. And that's spelled out in the document that the Minister publicly released. There's nothing to say that they have to stop teaching the way they're teaching and stop teaching what they're teaching. And it's just part of the misinformation that the national government, the national opposition and the ACT opposition are propagating.
Have you had a conversation with the Prime Minister today about this, about the letter?
No, she asked me. We haven't had a conversation. She leaned over in the house and just said, "Was I aware of the letter?" And I said yes. And
that was the end of it.
Yeah, because to be honest, I don't see that there's much of an issue with the letter. They're upset. I think that they're upset because they're confused.
That's the Associate Education Minister, Kelvin Davis. The Ministry of Education wouldn't say what actions, if any, are being taken, but said it will respond to Villa Trust shortly.